So guys, I'm recording this an hour or two after my initial video, which announced on my channel anyway, the Golovkin versus Kell Brook fight, and also talked about some of the fallout from that fight, namely Jesse Vargas and, more importantly, Chris Eubank Jr. being left out in the cold. And you know, in that video I was very critical of the Eubanks, and that's something that I feel quite strongly about. So if I get the sort of negative comments on that video, which I expect to receive, that's probably something that I'm going to revisit, either in the format of a live phone-in show or another video, and I'm sure regardless we'll discuss it on the podcast. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to put that for one side, because it did occur to me, despite the fact I was ranting at the screen for 15 minutes in the previous video, I didn't really touch on who I thought was necessarily going to win this fight. And you might say that goes without saying, because Gennady Golovkin is one of the most feared middleweights in the world for many, many years, and he's going up against a welterweight. So, you know, you could say that my sort of omittance of actually discussing the fight from a breakdown was fair enough. But I actually want to get into it. You know, we've got to put the drama with the Eubanks and with Jesse Vargas and Eddie Hearn and the negotiations to one side. It is what it is, and we now have this fight in front of us. It's going to be a major, major fight in the UK, and it's going to be a fight that's on all of our radars for weeks and months to come. So, you know, let's talk about it, and let's ask the question, can Kell Brook beat Triple G? Can Kell Brook beat Gennady Golovkin? And I want to hear people's opinions on this, because it's not one that I have considered extensively, and that's for obvious reasons. You know, sure, I'm going to give you my initial gut reaction in this video, but most fights in boxing, we hear rumours about them months before they're made. You know, most fights in boxing we talk about before the official announcement's been up. I must admit, I haven't really sat here at home thinking for hours, can Kell Brook beat Golovkin? So, you know, as a result, I may change my opinion, and I'm really interested in hearing what anyone else thinks. So leave your comments below. It's probably more interesting if you think Kell can beat Golovkin. But I'll tell you how I view Kell Brook. I view Kell Brook as a very smart boxer. I view Kell Brook as a very tidy guy in terms of his punching technique. He throws excellent straight punches. If you compare him to a guy like Keith Thurman, if you compare him to a guy like Shawn Porter, even if you compare him to a guy like Danny Garcia, you know, and I'm giving those as top-end comparators within his natural weight class, I think Kell Brook is a lot smarter and a lot tighter with the way he throws straight punches. He throws excellent long-range punches down the middle. He catches opponents nicely, he jabs exceptionally well, and he's very, very tidy. A very sort of standout boxer in terms of my perspective. Kell Brook also has a lot of power. You know, we've seen him hurt guys, we've seen him drop guys, stop guys fairly regularly. Kell Brook is a hard puncher in the context of the 147-pound division. Now, clearly, being a hard puncher at 147 doesn't constitute being a hard puncher at 160, and I'm sure we'll discuss that further. But, you know, what I do see about Kell Brook is I see a guy, and on the negatives, who possibly isn't the most versatile. He's possibly predictable in terms of the way he approaches fights. I don't think of Kell Brook as a guy with an electric inside game. I don't think of Kell Brook as a guy with the full range of punches necessarily. I don't think of Kell Brook as a guy with great body work. I view Kell Brook as a guy who likes to stand off you at range and throw good straight punches from range, jab an opponent down and hurt them. If I look at Kell Brook's main test, Shawn Porter, that was a close fight. For my opinion, even though I can see that Kell Brook won the fight, that's a fight that could have gone either way. And I think at times in that fight, Kell Brook struggled with the aggression, the pace, and the come forward aggression of a guy like Shawn Porter. So potentially that's something to bear in mind, stepping up not one but two weight classes. Another thing to consider is that Kell Brook regularly throughout his career has enjoyed a substantial size advantage, both in terms of weight, but also in terms of frame, in terms of reach. Now, when you're a very tall guy who works from range behind the 1-2, having that size and reach advantage can be so key. Look at Vladimir Klitschko, for example. You know, Vladimir Klitschko and Kell Brook, in a way, they're comparable fighters. Vladimir Klitschko's a guy who doesn't fight on the inside. Vladimir Klitschko's a guy who doesn't punch to the body regularly. Vladimir Klitschko's a guy who has 3 or 4 punches he does well, who works everything off the jab, who's pretty good in terms of straight, long-range punches. You know, there's some similarities there. And Vladimir Klitschko dominated a division with part of his success being that he was regularly the bigger man. You know, he did fight big guys. He fought like Marius Wack, Tony Thompson, but let's be honest, those guys are limited at the elite level. He then fought Tyson Fury, who was a bigger man, and he was able to negate his jab. And for me, that cost Vladimir Klitschko their fight. I think it's a very comparable situation. I think there are similarities between Klitschko and Kell Brook. And I also think that, like Tyson Fury did to Vladimir Klitschko, Golovkin could have some real effects on Kell Brook, because not only is Golovkin a bigger man than Kell Brook, but he's also got a world-class jab. Kell Brook's, all his experience of fighting is where he's been up against smaller guys, or guys of the same size, smaller or same, let's say, in terms of size, with worse jabs. He's now going up against a guy with a better jab, more size, more range, more reach, more power. You know, and I don't know Golovkin's reach stats, so I'm just presuming he'll have longer reach because he's a middleweight and Kell's a welterweight, so that seems likely. So I think it's a tough fight for Kell Brook stylistically. I really do. I think Kell's usual way of approaching fights is not going to work against Gennady Golovkin. You know, would Kell Brook be as successful a fighter if he wasn't a big man for his division who could use his jab from range? He's not going to be able to do that against Golovkin. Golovkin's too big, too strong. He's got too good a jab his own way. And I think if this becomes a battle purely behind the jab, Golovkin will win. Golovkin will win. You know, Golovkin maybe has a better jab, maybe he doesn't have a better jab pound for pound. But in the context of this fight, he's got a better jab because of the size difference. And this is where I question Kell Brook's versatility. Because Kell Brook, as I say, he's a very good fighter, but we know what he brings to the equation. He's not someone who I think is going to completely mix it up. And I do think Golovkin is going to have the style to mean that Kell can't sit and jab and stand off him and fight with long straight punches, you know, like we've seen him do time and time again in the pro rings. You know, I also worry about Kell Brook. You know, Kell Brook seems like a tough guy. He's fairly good at closing down opponents, but the time we've seen him really struggle in a fight, and you could say Carson Jones, but you know, that's pretty historical now. The time we've really seen him struggle in a good fight was the Sean Porter fight. And whether you like it or not, Sean Porter took multiple rounds of Kell Brook in that fight. And I just thought Porter was so aggressive, so come forward, so, you know, heavy on the front foot. He caused Brook a few problems. It didn't allow Brook to always, and I mean, Brook caught Porter clean from range many times, but he didn't allow Brook to completely dictate the game from the range he enjoys. He didn't allow Brook to simply do what Brook does best and pick off punches from range. You know, it kind of, that style kind of took the space away from Brook. It took the range away from Brook. It made Brook not be able to completely control the fight and fight matters at his own pace. And the way Golovkin fights has the potential to do that as well. You know, Golovkin is a guy who applies pressure, but in a far more educated and a far more clinical way than Sean Porter. And Golovkin's clearly a bigger guy who hits harder than Porter as well. You know, the Golovkin power we already know about. You know, Golovkin's a guy who can stalk you. Golovkin's a guy who can cut down the ring on you excellently. Golovkin's a guy who can narrow the angles. He's got superb footwork. So, for me, for my money, taking away all the hype about how this fight's been made and why it's been made and the Eubanks, it's a tough fight for Kell Brook, this. You know, Kell Brook's a good fighter, but we have weight classes in this sport for a reason. And I don't think Gennady Golovkin, stylistically, is right for Kell Brook. I really don't. I think Kell Brook's very reliant on the jab, and I think he's going up against a bigger man with a better jab. And I think Kell Brook's the kind of guy who needs to have success standing off you from range. I think Golovkin can beat Kell to the jab and win the battle at the jabs. And I think if it comes down to it, Golovkin can walk Kell down. I think he can cut down the ring on him. And I don't think Kell's going to be able to shut him down and hold him like he did against Sean Porter. And I don't believe Kell's got the inside game and that experience of being in against bigger men to rough up Golovkin on the inside. I think Golovkin beats him on the outside. I think Golovkin closes the range, starts working the body, cuts down the ring, and makes Kell Brook very, very uncomfortable by taking the reins away from Kell. All I'm getting at, Golovkin wins on the inside, Golovkin wins on the outside. Golovkin has the more power. Golovkin's the bigger man. Golovkin's had the tougher opposition. Kell Brook's a very good fighter. This is a very interesting fight. But for me, it's going to be hard to make a case for how Kell Brook foreseeably wins it. Khan versus Alvarez. I picked Alvarez completely comfortably. I was confident throughout that Khan had little chance in that fight. But I could understand how one could make a case for Khan to win. Skill, speed, boxing. I find it actually harder to make a case for Kell Brook to beat Golovkin. You know, what does Kell Brook do? What tools does he have in his arsenal to go out and beat Golovkin? That's my thoughts, guys. Agree or disagree? Let me know. Please leave your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe. If you're a regular viewer, if you're new, whatever, I'd really appreciate it if you took the time to thumbs up the video. Give me a like. It helps me spread the word to a wider audience. Thanks all. Appreciate it.